And it is finally time to take a look at Metal Cardbot Heavy Iron W. For the rest of the video, barring maybe a few exceptions, I'm just going to call this guy Heavy Iron because the qualifier of Heavy Iron W just seems kind of unnecessary and redundant. But I will make that distinction elsewhere when necessary. But Heavy Iron W, this guy is so cool. As I mentioned in the last video, I did make the mistake of getting this guy with Night Griffin, and Night Griffin is so laser targeted to my interests. This guy stood no chance in terms of being like my favorite of the two that I got in one shipment, but that's okay because, you know, after after acclimating to the sheer incredibleness that is Night Griffin, I was able to mess around with Heavy Iron a bit more, and yeah, this is a very, very cool figure. I feel like, realistically speaking, this is probably the better of the two as a figure, but like, because this isn't a really cool looking night-themed robot that turns into a Griffin Centaur and has an SR-71 Blackbird alt mode, he doesn't stand a chance in like the, you know, subjective side of things. But this is all subjective because objectivity, especially when it comes to reviewing and stuff like that, is so unnecessary and boring, and I hate it because objectivity serves no purpose in that kind of a critique. But anyway, I'm going off topic. Point is, Heavy Iron W, Heavy Iron, this guy is absolutely amazing and gigantic, but we'll get to that. But this is an incredibly cool figure. I mean, you can already see he looks amazing. Like, he just looks phenomenal. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. It's mayhaps a bit visually overwhelming at times. It gets so much worse, but this is very cool. I think in the base robot mode, and this is the base robot mode, I think there's just enough going on that it's like, it's not completely overwhelming. There's still a lot, but it's manageable visually. Outside of the gigantic sword and the core being, you know, the truck cab that is a separate piece, like all the rest of this stuff is just the robot bodies. Like these wings hanging off the shoulders, that's just part of it. Those don't come off. I mean, they can, and they aren't actually attached in the package, just for the sake of packaging. But these actually do not come off for the transformation. They stay on. It's not like the original Heavy Iron in that this is the truck cab. The rest of this, including the sword, but the sword is kind of parts forming, the rest of this is all the truck trailer, and there's no like popping things off and sliding things back on to reassemble them, with the exception of that sword. So already, engineering-wise, this guy is much more involved than the original figure. He's also just spectacular to look at, and super cool, and again, super big. It's hits a lot of the same visual notes as the original, with the grays and the reds and the blacks, the golds, obviously the blues. And if I bring in the original real quick here, actually, let's get rid of this. We bring in the original Heavy Iron just for a quick side-by-side in terms of like aesthetic. We'll do the size, we'll bring them back for a size comparison, but like in terms of aesthetic, there's a lot here that's the same. Like the basic color patterning is different because there's a lot more going on in terms of molding and stuff like that with the new one. But like you still have these big rectangular shoulder chunks that are done in like red with the blue in the center. The chest piece, while this has a little bit more of a toothy design to it, it's still a downward facing triangle with this kind of metallic-y bit in the center. You still have the gold belt buckle. The thighs still have that like dark gray with red stripes and black, except here you've got a little bit of silver. And like the shins and stuff, even the feet, it's like red and black. It's just, it's like this dialed up way harder into the super robot design, I guess. Even these flaps hanging off of his shoulders, it kind of looks like these could be what these hyper evolved into, or mega evolved, whatever. I think it's mega evolutions. Whatever the Pokemon thing is, I haven't really played the newer Pokemon games that much outside of Legends Arceus. Point is, there's a clear through line from this guy to this guy. You've got, you know, Wartortle to Blastoise, basically. And I think that's really cool. I like that they kept the core key design elements of the figure's style for the new figure, just extremed them with a capital X. Okay, now, this guy is a lot, just mass-wise. He's got these bits hanging off his shoulders. He's got this weirdly ornate butt flap. He's got backs of the calf flaps that don't actually peg in. I do wish these like clipped or pegged in, but they sit fine enough. They don't flop around. There's like slight detents to this joint here. As you can see, if I move this out so you can actually see what I'm pointing at, these do actually stay in place loosely. So like, you know, I don't have to worry about these flopping around, which is good, but I do wish they kind of pegged or tapped in, but whatever. But yeah, there's so much going on here. I like that you've got this unnecessary but cool metallic blue venting detail in the back now. There's some really nice gold and metallic. Is that metallic? It's hard to tell. I think that is, or at least supposed to be metallic. Like this, the detailing in the sides of the legs here, there's so much going on. So much. But for now, we will remove the sword and come back to this in a bit. Also, just want to point out the sword has a very similar vibe and aesthetic to the chest shield for the original Heavy Iron, just without the gold. Honestly, I kind of wish they put a little bit of gold in the sword so that it would further cement that kind of similarity, but what do I know? But yeah, this guy is very big, very imposing, very cool, and he just has so much to him. The head is an interesting thing, so it still looks really cool. It's a very similar shape and design to the original, a little bit less bulbous, a little bit more serious looking. Also, the ear fins fold out slightly because they pinch in a little bit for the transformation, but like they don't lock in any way. They don't even friction, so like it seems unnecessary. I feel like they could have just left them like that because they kind of stay like that on their own anyway. And I'm not comfortable with trying to pull these out any further because it feels like they're going to snap if I do. And I do not want to break this thing. So yeah, it's a little weird that they bothered to do that, but whatever. I like the translucent blue that they used for the head crest, and it's a separate piece, so you don't have to worry about like the head. The head is not translucent plastic. The shape is really cool. I like that they went with the black with red trim, and then the silver faceplate, and also that you've got these little details on the sides of the faceplate that just make it look a little bit more, I guess, serious? I don't know. The only thing that bugs me, like, I love that they did gold for the eyes, but I don't really like the pupil thing, which I know is a thing that's been happening with metal Cardbots lately. A lot of the recent figures have had that, including Sky Gallop and Night Griffin and all that, but I prefer the pupilless eyes for robots, especially because I felt like that was a good contrast to the more typical pupilled eyes of the vehicle modes. Kind of dig that. That being said, this is an option for Heavy Iron here, because what you can actually do is you can pop the head open and it pulls up. It doesn't pull up the whole face, it just pulls up the eyes. And this is on a separate joint that you can rotate around, and it does actually kind of soft lock into place. And also there's a tab here that plugs into the base, so it actually keeps this aligned pretty well. So you flip that around, click this back down, and now you have the pupilless eyes. And I prefer that, and that's how the head's going to look for the rest of the video. But yeah, I love that they give you the option, which is probably partially at least because of the fact that this guy is so big, they can kind of afford to do that. There is this going on with this panel pulling up, which is why, like, when I move the head, I have to kind of push down just to keep that from moving up, because if I try to move the head back without doing that, it moves the whole panel. But yeah, it's a cool head, and I think this is I appreciate that they give you the choice between one or the other. I'm sure there's, like, you know, you use one when he's got his card gimmick on, one when he doesn't. It's probably something like that to it, but I just like this. I like that is how they let you do that. Okay, and now to try and show off articulation on this guy. I'm sighing because he's just very large and kind of cumbersome to do with a camera in the way. But the head, as you saw, is on a ball joint that can get pretty expressive. It can look down a pretty decent amount, can look up a pretty decent amount, and you can also get that panel involved for slightly more up. But I don't really like the panel moving. You get really nice side to side, and the head can rotate. Does it go all the way around? Yeah, it goes all the way around. The chin bit kind of crashes into the shoulder, the blue bits around the shoulders a little bit, but like the head can move around that, so you can go all the way around if you want. The arms. Well, actually, before we look at the arms, the shoulder winglet things, they can rotate, and they can rotate all the way around. They can also go out and down to a certain extent. However, going out does kind of get in the way of the rotation a bit. So, like, it doesn't want to go up any further when it's rotated out like this. So something to be aware of, I guess. And then this joint also, if we get that out of the way, this joint also rotates. And that can go, theoretically, it could go all the way around, but there's so much stuff going on around here that it's probably going to crash into something before it does that. But you've got lots to play around with there. The shoulders can go all the way around. The arms, here, if we get the wing out of the way, the arms can go out to about that far, which is not the best. If we bring this out a bit further, maybe it can go... Nope. So yeah, that's as far out as the arm can go. Not a T-pose, but considering the bulk and all of this stuff going on, I feel like that's passable. You get bicep rotation, of course, and then the elbows. You get a disappointing 2-click 90-degree bend on this joint, because he actually has double jointed elbows. And there's a very solid 3-click, is it 3 or 4? 4-click joint in the upper part of the joint there, so you can actually get a pretty deep curl well past 90. And it can go even further if you just use that lower joint first. So yeah, you got a lot to play with here, and I like that the upper joint isn't quite as extreme, because you can see when you bend this one, it goes out almost 45 degrees. But when you bend this one, it's a much more subtle bend. So I love that he's got the 2 joints in the elbow, and each one is slightly different, so you can kind of... I mean, I'd prefer if they were both detented like the upper one, but I like that you've got that option to be a little bit more subtle with your posing, or more extreme. So with the arms out of the way, surprise, surprise, you do get a waist rotation. It doesn't go... Like, I think it can go all the way... Yeah, it can go all the way around, but you need to move this to make sure it can happen, but you get the full waist rotation. These flaps on the back here, specifically these little ones, are what are blocking the rotation. So if you fold these so that they're pointed more forward, then you don't have to worry about angling that back flap. But I like to have them angled up a bit, and they kind of pinch in on these joints here, and I just think that looks a little bit more interesting and dynamic. But if you do that, that means you have to move that up out of the way. You've got hip skirts that go out and forward, and with the hip skirts out of the way, with the hip skirts out of the way, the hips can go... It is so tricky to get all this stuff out of the way. The hips can go out to 90 degrees, and you can see these are solid ratchets. This is not moving that easily on its own. Can go forward. This is where things get a little limited. It can go forward only a couple of clicks. That's really as far as it wants to go. You can't really kick forward that far. Can go back similarly about 2 clicks before things are bumping into other things. So not a whole lot of forward and backward on the thighs. Or hips, rather. The thighs do rotate, though because of all of the mass back here, if you want to go all the way around, you have to bring the legs out more. Because if they're straight, they're not going to rotate. If they're out 1 click, they're only going to rotate that 1 bit. So you have to rotate them more to be able to clear those hip joints. The knees. They are detented, as is everything else, and they bend to pretty much 90. It would be nice if they were double jointed, but the way this thing transforms, I understand why they're not. I do, however, wish they weren't quite so extreme, because you pretty much just get the 3 clicks. And I really wish you could get slightly more subtle knee bends out of it, but you can't. And then for the ankles are a little bit interesting, because, okay, so as you can see, you do get ankle tilt. And it can go in a couple of clicks, actually, which is nice. You also get some forward and backward tilt, which is good. Problem being, if you have the ankles in like the neutral position, he wants to lean back and it just doesn't feel very stable. So you really kind of have to click these heels forward in order for him to stand well. But he is nice and stable when you do that. It just kind of stinks, the back click, making him so this. But it can still have its uses for different poses and when he's like holding accessories and stuff like that. Now for accessories, or accessory, because he only has, outside of the card, he just has this really cool looking giant sword that he's supposed to hold like this. And this I find just a little bit irksome because the very clear dragon dinosaur, it's a dragon motif is upside down when he's holding it like this, but like that's where the guard is. So if he's holding it like this, it's right side up, but now the majority of the blade is up top, so that's just kind of, yeah, I kind of wish that this was just going the other way. Small thing to complain about, but it's a very big sword. It is almost up to his waist. It is taller than a deluxe by a significant margin. So yeah, big sword. And as you'd expect, it slides into his hand. And I did not talk about hand articulation, but the hands, the fists, do actually rotate. They rotate a lot. There's silver paint back here, which means it kind of like it crashes into this a little bit if you rotate it. Or it's like there's just enough clearance. So usually what I'll do, just for the sake of, you know, trying to preserve the paint, is I'll pop this open to rotate it and then pop it back closed to make sure I don't accidentally scratch the paint. But he's got rotating wrists, so you can have him hold the sword, you can rotate it while it's in his hand, and you've got all those other joints you can play around with, so that's cool. However, it's not just a sword, because of course it's not. So what you can do is fold the guard forward, fold it down at the handle, and now it's like a gun, sword. But I like that it can do this. It's cool. It's not a super successful gun sword looking thing, but I still think it's neat that you can do that. And also it's a great alternative to trying to fit stuff on a shelf. Because this guy is, as I said before, quite big. Now, I'm gonna do the card stuff now because he doesn't gain any height when he gets the card thing attached. So we're gonna do size comparisons after we deal with this thing. So, okay. It's card. It's got cool illustration. At least I hope it's an illustration of Heavy Iron doing things. Doesn't have his name on it because they stopped doing that for some reason. Whatever. This pops off. And now we're left with this big old chunk. And this it kind of sits over this section here. Like there are some grooves here that sit over this and they do kind of tab in. But the primary connection is there are actually some tabs in this red piece here that are tabbed into this black piece. So I find it's best to disconnect things by usually like kind of leveraging here and pushing these apart so you can pop that tab out. And once that's popped out, you can unplug this from here and it all comes apart. And now we've got these two chunks. These will just pop off of this piece and this will unfold. There's these like T-tab kind of things, so you want to bring this piece in and kind of overlay this, so you want to pull this out. You don't want to try and pull them apart together. But now we've got all this going on. Okay, so I'm going to rotate this guy around so you can see what I'm doing. There are some holes back here that these plug into. So you just plug these in, and they are very slightly detented, and they just kind of can sit like that. What I prefer to do when I have them on this guy, which I really kind of don't want to have them on this guy, but I need to keep everything together. You can flare them out slightly, and I like to angle them up a little bit, because if you don't do that, you can't see them. They, like, if you angle these back, you can't really, like, where'd they go? Even if I bring the camera up, it's still just like, where are they? What is the point of these things? And I don't like these wings, because clearly that's what they are. And they're so tiny and basic, and they don't even flare out. Like, you cannot flare them out any further than that. I've tried. Those joints only go out that far, and it feels like I'm going to break something if I try to force it any further. So, like, that's as far out as you can flare the wings. The only real articulation you get is that up and down rotation, and, like, this is fine, but he doesn't need that. And then there's this thing, which has these clips on either side that go over these posts on either side here. Just kind of bring it on one side and clip it in, and then bring it over the other and clip that in, and then flare this out. And now he's got a dragon head chest. You can open the mouth. You can also open the upper jaw, but you kind of want to slide up to do that. So if you slide that up, then you can open it. But once, like, this isn't very strong. I don't know if it's something I did when I got the figure, but, like, that is not great. It'll stay open, but it's not, like, it doesn't thunk into place as solidly as it does elsewhere. So you can do that. And then you've got this piece, which is actually the only thing about this whole card bit that I like, which is fold this out until it snaps into place. And then you can either leave this as is and come back here. You can peg this into the underside of the handle here, and that gives him this big, like, double-bladed thing, which is cool. Or you can open this panel and flip out a handle and put this in his other hand, and he can dual wield dragon-themed swords. That's cool. I like this. And also, when you have the dragon head cannon thing going, if you noticed, the wings have these bits on them. There are these gray bits on the inside. These actually slide forward, and the wing bits kind of become cannons, so you can have him all dragoned up and firing his cannons, and It's fine. My problem with the non-tail sword related add-ons to this, card bits, whatever, is the wings feel like a complete afterthought. Like, you can't see them unless you angle them up, and even then, they're so overpowered by what's going on here that's already a part of the core robot anyway. And the dragon head thing, it's fine, but like, if you have it open, it looks kind of silly. If you close it, like, I prefer to have the mouth open a bit, but like, if you close it, it's fine. This kind of gets in the way of these and this kind of get in the way of the face from certain angles, so if you're trying to get like a cool pose with him like this or whatever, it's like he can't see past that. And the worst thing about it for me is look at how far that sticks out. That is kind of ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't necessarily double the depth of heavy iron, but it certainly feels like it. When I put this guy on the shelf, I have the head crest on him just to have it on him, but I have to like fold the wings down if I want him to actually fit on my shelf. I don't like it. However, as I said, I think this thing is a slight redeeming quality in all of this, because I do think this is cool. I like that it gives you a couple of options in terms of what you do with the the other stuff, but there's also a third option that I think isn't intentional, but it works well enough that it could be. If we angle this guy right, get this out of the way, bring the arm out. You can probably tell where this is going, but this is very cool. Bring this up and this down, fold that in, and I'm going to cheat a little bit by using the transformation joint on this arm, because that gives you a little bit more space to work with it, but bring that out. And what the heck, we'll bring the legs out a little bit more. You can take this, open this up, fold the handle back in, leave this out, and plug this in like that, because then we can angle this back one click with that handle, angle this back one click, and raise the guard, not all the way. And that's a pretty decent approximation of like a bow. I think that's pretty awesome. I still don't like the dragon chest piece. I'm still not a fan of those wings, but I like that it can do this, even if it's purely a fan mode thing. I feel like you can probably see a little bit of what I'm talking about with the absurdity of the chest piece getting in the way of the being able to actually see his face. But anyway, this is a very cool figure that has a mostly swing and a miss, for me anyway, card gimmick. But he's still really cool looking. And positively huge, because the original Heavy Iron was no slouch in terms of size, but like, geez. Which of course also means he's absolutely enormous compared to Blackhook. He is also a little over, like, not quite a head taller, but almost a head taller than Blast Train's fully formed combined mode. And like, this is a combination. This is just how big he is on his own, because as already shown, the card bits just add some miscellaneous junk to him. It doesn't increase his size or anything. Well, I mean, I guess that's the same thing here. He just gets the claws. But point is, this is a combination. This is how big the core robot is. And of course, huge compared to Wild Chief. And to really drive the point home, here he is with a Voyager, a Tall Deluxe, and a Small Deluxe. Again, huge. And if that doesn't convey the size enough, here you go. 86 Devastator. Okay, so first thing, gonna take the sword out of his hand and fold the handle back this way, because before it was like this for the gun mode, so we're gonna do that, and then this will go off to the side. Going to straighten out the arms and the wings. Bring those thighs in for their rotation. Straighten out the head, and we will start by unplugging the core as was seen earlier. So that is the base robot. And as a brief comparison, here's the core for the original heavy iron. And like this is the other bits of the robot have to attach to this. This just sits into the whole robot body. And I kind of prefer this method, but whatever. So that's how those two compare. To transform this thing, going to rotate this all the way down, fold these flaps in, and then fold this down. And the reason I fold the flaps in first is because you can actually fold this down further than it needs to go for the transformation. So I just find it easiest to line things up by getting these flaps in first and then bringing this up the rest of the way. Next, these wheels untab from the sides. This whole assembly flips down, and these swing back in, and there are these little slots on the side here that go over these tabs on these flaps that were brought in. Just sandwich over like that. The smokestacks fold up. The head can now fold back a bit, which allows you to get this piece out. And then you just fold the head down into the cab. And it doesn't matter which eyes you have out for this. And then this just folds back in, covers that up. And that is the truck cab. And just for a quick comparison, here is the original heavy iron cab to go with that. Okay, now comes the really involved stuff. So, I'll start with the lower body, I guess. Going to, first gonna just flip this up so that I've got more room to grab stuff back here. So, going to straighten out the ankles, neutral, like put the feet in like the neutral position, because this is the position that I would use for standing, but neutral position. Going to collapse the legs in, so they just slide in and click into place. You can do it with the legs like together, but I'm doing it this way because it's much easier to show on camera. So then these come in and peg and clip together, and these flaps back here also peg and clip together. And that will solidify all of this. There we go. The knee spikes fold in. The the sides of the legs fold over like that. And then the toes, we'll leave the feet out for now, just so that this guy can stand. But we will be folding those in later. Now, fold that back down. Now, going to bring the wings out a little bit, because we need to take the arms and use this transformation joint to slide the arm joint out. And it is weirdly tricky to do, but this does slide out and it does click into place. And when it's clicked into place, it doesn't really get any motion. But you want to do that. And also, forgot to do this, but pop this open, flip the fist in, close back up. So, in this one, I'm going to pop that open, the fist in, close it up, and then slide this out. And I'm trying to grab it above the bicep rotation because I don't want to put any undue stress on that part. So, do that. I'm going to collapse this whole thing together, and these will tab together here. That will come together, and you also want to rotate these out 90 degrees, and you can see how these clip together. These do not peg into anything down here, they just sit. But now that that's done, these panels can come down, and this peg will go into the side of the arm. This clip up here will clip into the back of the shoulder, and this peg down here will go into a little hole on the tip of the wing. And I find it's usually easiest to get the clip in first, then get the peg in, then get the peg into the arm. And that will line all of that up. Again, bring this down, clip that in, peg that in, peg that in. Now we've got this whole thing going. Take these ends here, flip them down, And now, now that we're doing the rest of this, going to fold in the toes, and this is where the sword comes in. Where did I put the sword? So this will slide in here, and the blue part, this blue tab section, will go into this gray slot that's formed between the legs here, and the black piece of the guard will go between the feet. And this should be all lined up. You'll know if it's not lined up because this won't line up at the feet, but it should be lined up, and then you push it in and it'll thunk in, and this does not come out easily. You can pull it out before untransforming anything, and you can also actually like pull the legs apart first to get it out first, but like, yeah, this will just thunk in. So that's all done. Now I'm going to take these blue pieces, rotate them all the way around, and there you go. There is the bottom part of the trailer. Now, this is the thing that I didn't see in the instructions. I don't think I've seen anyone mention in like the Korean videos that I've watched, but something that I thought was weird at first was I noticed the shins in robot mode, they do this, and there doesn't seem to be a purpose for it. It's not like a combination thing or anything like that. And then I realized what I think this is for trailer support when you don't have the cab in there. It lines up perfectly so that this can sit level on the table. The peg is not actually, like, there is actually some space down there, so the peg is not what's supporting any of this. I think that is supposed to be supports for the trailer, and I just think that's kind of neat. To finish the rest of this, what we want to do is take this butt flap and untab it from here. There's a peg here, clip there. So unpeg all this, swing this all the way around, and this will come down, and it'll clip up here, and there are these little tabs down here that'll go into the sides of these shoulder rotation-y bits. But you also want to rotate these bits because you want these to form part of the back of the trailer as well. And I find the best way to know how to orient these is to just line it up so that this flat part is lined up with the flat part here. And what'll happen is these flaps will go over this little black piece. So you want to make sure that these are kind of, so you can see they pinch in. You want to make sure these are kind of out as you bring this down. And when you bring this down, you want to make sure these tabs go in. And then thunk that little strut into place. Make sure everything's all lined up. It is. And there we go. For the last of it, I'm going to take these backs of the calf flaps and bring them up. And the secondary joints here are much stronger than these, so you want to push these down. Yeah, there we go. And then want to flare these out, bring this whole thing down. That will kind of not snap, but it will go over some things. And then these panels fold in and will go over some tabs and plug in a few places. Like there's a tab here that goes into this little slot here. There's this piece that goes over this piece. There's a little slot here that'll go over this bit here. So just bring all this in, and that'll close up, close off that part of the trailer. And that, whew, that is Heavy Iron W's trailer transformation. I'm a little sweaty now. And of course, we can bring the cab back in and fold these back up. And this will just plug in here. It's not like a super solid connection. This is just the angle keeping it in, but like it's not solid. It's not gonna stay like that on its own, but you can plug it in, and there we go. In its entirety, there is Heavy Iron W's tractor trailer mode. It's Heavy Iron's alt mode. It's a tractor trailer truck. There's nothing new here conceptually. Visually, this is kind of wild. This trailer looks like the kind of overbuilt, overdesigned thing you'd see as like a we spent way too much money for self-promotion video game PR stunt. I am not referring to anyone specific. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, no, this is ridiculous. It looks cool. It absolutely looks cool, but like this is wild. I will say though, as wild as this is, it at least looks like a truck trailer. I mean, I guess the original Heavy Irons trailer does also look like a trailer, but it looks like something that's trying to look like a trailer rather than being a trailer, kind of. Like, there are definitely compromises here too, but this trailer has so many gaps and weird panels and spots to it that it doesn't quite come off as cohesively as this does, which again, I'm acknowledging the fact that this is kind of a very busy truck trailer, but it still does look like a truck trailer, and my goodness, the amount of detailing on this thing, and a lot of this stuff you don't even see in the robot mode. Like the flaps and stuff here, this bit you do see, and like these flaps here you see, but they're like on the back of the robot. But they actually painted some gold striping on the back here, and this is the underside of the butt flap in robot mode. You've got the wingtips here for the shoulder wings acting as like the tail lights. The wings make up a decent portion of the sides of the truck trailer. All this silver up here and like this bit here you didn't really see. All of this painted, by the way, detailing, like the stripe going up here, the corrugated texture here, the gunmetal here. All of this you didn't see in robot mode because this was folded over. So there's a lot of really cool stuff here. It is a very wild, futuristic-looking truck trailer. They even have venting in the front here, where like this is the bottoms of the feet, because this is the feet like folded out for robot mode. So you're not seeing this in robot mode, but in vehicle mode, it's like they purposely put it up there to be like venting or something like that, or like intakes, which I just think is kind of neat. And I also really like that they incorporated the sword so that you can store the sword in the trailer and it acts as the trailer hitch. I just really like that. And the robot does a pretty okay job of disappearing in there. I mean, not disappearing, but folding away. And yeah, this is just a very, very gigantic trailer. My goodness. And the truck cab attaches to it and it all rolls quite well, actually, considering. And because of the weight behind this thing, I feel like you get a lot of traction there too. The trailer, fold out the supports here. I was so confused by these, but once I figured out that's probably what they're for, I actually really appreciate that they put these in, and they're on nice strong ratchets too. So yeah, that can sit back there, and I don't have to worry about the peg. The trailer it's basically just Heavy Iron's regular trailer. It's a blue cab with the slightly angular futuristic thing going, but it's a bit more extreme in a lot of cases. Like bringing the original cab back in, you can see that it's just the angles are a bit more pronounced here. There's a much bigger separation between the grille section and bumper section and like the cab itself compared to this, which is basically just a cube. The smokestacks they're higher on here. They're not necessarily bigger. The smokestacks, actually, if you look at them next to each other, the smokestacks on the original cab are bigger, but these sit higher because I guess they figured it was easier to have them do this for the transformation rather than accordion up on a hinge like this one. The head hides away much better, though, in this one. You get a little bit messier of a top. You don't get this nice silver bit up here, but I don't think that's a huge deal. And still get the gas canisters on the sides. Now you've got these chrome rims, which is cool. Way more black on the bottom too. It's kind of funny looking at these two side by side. Like this is obviously not a regular truck cab, but this is much more proportionally similar to a regular truck cab, minus the eyes on it and whatnot. But this one, because of the way it's like narrower here and kind of flares out at the bottom, it almost feels like they gave the cab itself super robot style proportions. And I don't know if that's intentional, but I love it. There's not a whole lot of paint on this, but at the same time, there's so much more than you might expect or think they would do for just the cab. Because some of this you don't see in the robot mode. Like you don't get that gunmetal on the sides. These bits up here are pretty much covered up on the in the original, not in the original, the robot mode. The chrome wheels, rims, you don't really see. All this nice painted detail in the front you don't see. So yeah, it's pretty cool that they went this hard on just the cab, and like you've got red taillights, but these I think are actually separate pieces of plastic. I don't think that's paint. And there you can see more like the venting detail on what became the robot's back. This is a really cool figure. It's just the only reason he's not a winner over Night Griffin for me is because of who I am as a person. Because of the very specific things that Night Griffin's robot card accessory mode, robot mode, card accessory, and alt mode, how they make me happy. But this is an incredibly cool figure. Now, seeing the two heavy irons side by side, it's kind of hard to get a good angle to really show this off, but I feel like this gets the point across. It's just how really big this guy is, because he is really big. Just the trailer alone is gigantic, but this is a lot. And as you'd probably nothing, as I'm sure you definitely expected, he is way bigger than Wild Chief, and is also way bigger than your typical at retail Transformers figures. I also realize I never actually did a comparison with Night Griffin. So there you go. Here he is with Night Griffin. And I got these two at the same time, and as I said a few times in the video, for as amazing and undeniably incredible as Heavy Iron W is, Night Griffin just gets me, you know? This is just all of my jam. But all of that aside, Heavy Iron W is just an amazing figure. So big, chunky, feels great to mess around with. The plastic is fantastic. There are a lot of joints to mess with. The articulation in a few places is a little bit lacking or more limited than I would like, but it's not a problem. It's just a thing to be aware of. It's significantly better than a lot of posing that other metal Cardbot figures get. But yeah, it's super cool. It's just a super cool figure that looks amazing and has an incredibly disappointing card gimmick that, on the plus side, the majority of what you're paying for isn't that. This thing is enormous, and that is what you're primarily paying for. And I love this despite this. And I mean, this is fine. It's just so disappointing compared to other things that metal Cardbot figures have gotten. I mean, you know, you're trying to, in my experience, you're trying to follow up the absolute amazing Night Griffin Centaur mode with extended wings with this. And it's no contest on which is the better card accessory, but yeah, just on his own, with or without the card thing, since we're still calling them that, even though they're really not cards, this is amazing, well worth the money, even though I did overpay for it because I couldn't get this through Gmarket like I normally do. Point is, I overpaid for this guy using some holiday money and Night Griffin, and I don't regret paying what I did. I still would have preferred to pay less, because I always would have preferred to pay less, but I don't feel like I got ripped off. I'm again getting off track. This is just an amazing figure, and if you can get one for yourself, and if you think this looks cool and you can get one for yourself and you can do so without breaking the bank, absolutely do it. This is amazing, and it kind of puts you through your paces. You know, I forgot to mention earlier how there's that ongoing dragon motif through everything. I was going to mention it when I attached the ridiculous chest plate to him and the wings, but like, yeah, you've got dragon heads in the shoulders, and even the chest crest has like a little kind of fang, toothy claw motif going on there. And I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting, if unnecessary, but none of that matters. This guy's just cool. But I have rambled long enough. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on this figure or the cards or other metal Cardbot related stuff, other Korean robot related stuff. I don't know. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I do not know what the next video is going to be. All I know is that right now I am taking a break from recording because I am sweaty and tired and need a drink. Water. It's not, yeah, but yeah, I don't know what the next video is going to be, but it's going to be about a transforming robot, I can tell you that.